Women's History Quiz. Test your knowledge for women's history. Who was the first woman to be appointed CEO of a Fortune 500 company? Answer: Katharine Graham. Katharine Graham was America's first female Fortune 500 CEO. As publisher of The Washington Post, she guided the newspaper to national prominence, most notably when it published the Pentagon Papers and reported on the Watergate scandal. Who was the first woman to win an Olympic gold medal? Answer: Charlotte Cooper. In winning the women's tennis singles title at Paris 1900, Charlotte Cooper became the first female athlete to win Olympic gold in an individual event. Who was the first woman to travel into space? Answer: Valentina Tereshkova. The Soviet cosmonaut is the first and youngest woman to have flown in space. On June 16, 1963, at age 26, she was launched in the spacecraft Vostok 6 and orbited Earth 48 times, spending almost 3 days in space. She remains the only woman to have been on a solo space mission. Which country was the first to grant women the right to vote? Answer: New Zealand. In 1893, following some 20 years of activism by suffrage campaigners, New Zealand became the first nation in the world in which women had the right to vote, beating Canada and the US by a quarter century. Who was the first woman to be named Time Person of the Year? Answer: Wallis Simpson. Time named Simpson its first Woman of the Year, for becoming the most talked about, written about, headlined and interest-compelling person in the world. Who was the first female pilot to achieve a transatlantic flight? Answer: Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart is probably the most famous female pilot in aviation history. She was the first female aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. In 1987, she became the first female performer to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Name this vocal powerhouse. Answer: Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin began her career as a child singing gospel. By the end of the 60s, she was known as the Queen of Soul. Putting out such hits as Chain of Fools and Spanish Harlem, Franklin was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. Who was the first woman to set foot on Antarctica? Answer: Caroline Mickelson. Caroline Mickelson was a Danish-Norwegian explorer who on February 20, 1935 was the first woman to set foot on Antarctica. Marie Curie won Nobel Prizes in physics and which other field? Answer: Chemistry. In 1903, the Polish-born French scientist was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize for her work on the discovery of radioactivity. She won the Chemistry Prize in 1911 for discovering the radioactive elements polonium and radium, becoming the first person and only woman to win the Nobel Prize twice, and the only person to win the Nobel Prize in 2 different scientific fields. Who became the first woman to reach the summit of Mount Everest? Answer: Junko Tabei. Also the first woman to climb the 7 summits, the Japanese mountaineer, Junko Tabei, had a love for mountaineering from childhood. Heading a team of 15 women and 6 Sherpas during her Everest ascent, an avalanche buried her camp but luckily there were no casualties. Just 12 days later she reached the summit of Mount Everest on May 16, 1975.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe our channel Maha Smart Class for more educational videos on various subjects.